are delighted to have you visit us again for another wonderful interview with someone in the lipedema world who has a story that can encourage and help you. One of the first names I saw on the Facebook group, which was known at the time as Lipedema and Food Intolerances, was Kelly Maynard. And after many months, we finally had the chance to visit together. Hi, Kelly. Hi, you have that lovely Texas accent, which is just so lovely. And most of the people that are watching who are part of lipedema, and now it's called Lipedema and Food Sensitivities, are well familiar with your name, but now they get to hear your story, which is such a privilege for all of us, Kelly. And I want to start out with the fact that you said you always knew that there were signs, but you didn't know what those signs meant.
Right. It was, I mean, it's been a long journey. I think that's so common with women with lipedema. You look back and you can see all those little things and they make sense when in hindsight. Whereas at the time, you don't know what's going on. Because I didn't have that as common a story like during puberty when all of a sudden things just changed. I had it, I guess after I started having kids is when I really first started noticing it, because I would always lose weight while I was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And then after a few months of breastfeeding, I would gain it all back and even plus more with no change in diet and no, and the doctors didn't really have an explanation of why I was losing weight while I was pregnant. That's sort of the opposite of what should happen. Yeah. And so I would always gain, and then I would be at that set weight, like however many pounds I gained, I would just be that. And then I'd have another child and the same pattern. And over the years, it just sort of crept up. And then it got to the point where I couldn't lose the weight. After my third child, I just couldn't get back. And I think I had him right around 30. And so I think you get in your 30s, it becomes a little harder anyway. And so then I had a big gap. I had my fourth child 12 years later. And so then I was in my 40s. And I had 3 miscarriages in a row, which plays with your hormones like crazy.
Of course.
And then I had her. With her, I lost 35 pounds while I was pregnant. There was no explanation at all. I mean, I had a bad pregnancy and I was kind of sick, but not to where I should lose 35 pounds. And after she was born, I nursed. And then right when she was about 6 months old is when she started eating solid foods. The nursing decreased. And I gained 50 pounds within about 2 months. And it was.
And what were the doctors saying, Kelly?
Well, at this point, my last 3 children were born with a midwife. And so they try, I think, in my experience anyway, they tried a little harder to try to help me figure out what was going on, but there just was nothing. And after a couple of years after I had her is when this time my weight had always been like knees to hips is how I always described it. I didn't gain in a normal way, it didn't seem like to me, and that didn't make sense at all because it was always between my waist and my knees. But after my daughter was born and I gained all that weight, then I realized my upper arms had gained weight too. And that didn't make sense to me. It's like these weird things that happen where, part of your body is the same and the other parts are bigger and you can't diet it away. I was a dance teacher. I was always a dancer in high school. Even right before my daughter was born, I was a dance teacher and gymnastics instructor. So it's not as though I didn't know how to exercise or what to do to be fit. I had worked with a nutritionist and homeopath for about 20 years at that point. So my diet was spot on as far as healthy. You know,
Yeah.
there were no soft drinks. There were rarely like any kind of sugars. I was grain free. All those things that you would think, well, you should do this. I was doing that.
The maddening part is you think A plus B equals C. And in this
Yes,
case, it just does not add up. But then aside from the weight component, which was like your body rebelling against you, against all the common wisdom about nutrition and what should happen when you're pregnant, you had pain.
I had pain, and that was actually new after my daughter was born. My fourth child. She's my only girl, so after my daughter was born, the pain started.
Hmm.
And there were times, because my other kids were teenagers, and that's a whole different ball game when they're teenagers. But the
Well, you have to
pain,
keep up with them. And one
yes,
of the things that you wrote that actually broke my heart was that you needed several days to rest before you did anything that required energy.
I did. And part of that, I think, was due to the pain. It's hard. I've been a homeschool mom for a really long time, and it was very hard mentally to realize, you know, if I'm going to go to the grocery store, I have to rest for 24 hours. Then when I go to the store, I have to come home and recover for the next couple of days, just for that small thing that's a normal part of life that you have to do when you have children. And I found myself more and more and more needing to rest just to recover from normal things. You know, my husband was taking over the laundry and the dishes and the cooking and he has a job. So that was a big burden on him. And I think when the pain set in, is when things shifted for me, because it's very hard to deal with you're gaining weight and you don't fit in things, and it's, you know, dealing with how you look and how you feel about yourself. But when I would just walk through the house to go to the other room, it would take a while. And my kids being teenagers, the older ones, they were like, "Are you spying on us? We just find you standing in the hallway outside the door, like, are you spying on us?" And I'm like, "No, I can't walk. Like, really, I have to stop walking now."
That we can chuckle about that, and yet I'm so glad that you are bringing up the excruciating circumstance you found yourself in, because there are many women watching who are on the beginning of their journey and they can't understand why their bodies are not responding like they used to, why they can't do the things they used to, why they're so fatigued and why they're in pain. And then add to the physical pain, the emotional pain of feeling guilty because you can't keep up and do what you used to do. And Kelly is here as a voice of hope because you decided, I got to do something about this. And you did what everybody does. You started to Google, right?
I did. And well, I don't know if I included this in what we had talked about before, but I developed plantar fasciitis, which since then I have realized a lot of women with lipedema seem to have this. And I had a friend who I met for coffee one day, and she said, "I brought something with me, and you don't have to do it. I just wanted to tell you." And I said, "Okay." And she brought out her fascia blaster. And she said, "I read on the group that I'm in that people who've had plantar fasciitis have had relief with this." And I said, "That doesn't make any sense." I mean, I know there's controversy about the fascia blaster, and this is not a fascia blaster ad. It's just my story
And
of
you
what
know what?
happened.
It's a great time for us to say these stories are just that. We're not trying to offer medical advice. We may be able to satisfy some of your curiosity or inspire you based on what Kelly has learned through a long journey of trying and testing and trialing things out and coming to her own conclusions. So you tried the fascia blast.
I did. I tried it, and it didn't really seem to work, honestly. So
Is
I,
this your 2018 story of how it started out being so painful?
yes,
Okay, because I'm reading your story and your recounting of how painful it was at the start, but then several months later, you started to get some relief.
several months later, I started to get some relief. And I think part of the key, and this is what I would hope that women would see, because I see them saying, I tried that, I tried that, I tried that. And it's so hard. It's just so hard. And it's hard when you try something and you've already tried so many things. It's hard to keep trying. But with the fascia blaster and the plantar fasciitis, I think the key was, instead of just saying this isn't going to work, I tried to figure out why it wasn't working and how maybe it could work. And so I started studying the connective tissue and how it worked together. And I realized I also had one of my hips was lower down than the other, and it was the opposite side than where my plantar fasciitis was. And so I started, this is all part of the story. I started using the fascia blaster, not just on my plantar fasciitis, on my foot. I started using it up my entire legs. And when I started doing that, that is when I got relief for the pain in my foot. And so when I then connected to lipedema, when I then realized how all these tissues in your body are connected, and how when those tissues, they're supposed to be in layers like this, supposed to move across each other. They cover all your organs, all your muscles, everything. So when those tissues are supposed to be sliding against each other, and one of them gets like a knot, they do not slide. Or when you are not hydrated, they stick and they cannot go. And when you have some sort of trauma or even micro trauma, or, I mean, a lot of things can cause a little snag, a little knot. And Dr. McHutchison sort of referred to that when in your last webinar, talking about little scar tissues in the connective tissue. So I started thinking about all that. And before Dr. Herbst said it was okay, I started using that fascia blaster to try to help my connective tissue be healthier. And so that was when I started getting relief, when I realized all of this is connected together. You know, it's not, you can't think one little step is going to fix everything, and you can't give up. You can't give up. There's not a magic pill for everybody, but there are things that you can do to help yourself wherever you are. And I think that's the key. Even when it's hard, there's still hope. There's something that's going to help you.
I want to read something that you wrote that really touched me from your journal entry of June 19th, 2018. I want to be able to hold hands with my husband. I want to be able to take care of my family. And I want to cry. That was at the start of you trying the fascia blasting and the myofascial release. You say your first session was as painful as labor. How can something so simple hurt so much? I hope this works, because that was torture. And the reason I'm reading it is because you had to press through that torture to get to the other side for you. And we're not saying that this is the answer for everyone, but it was an answer for you, because then if you fast forward to 9/18/18, wow, it's been 3 months since the desperate little paragraph I wrote about how I couldn't deal with it anymore. And so much difference. My pain is still there, but it's in the background. So you had to press through that torture for 3 months to get some relief. And maybe that's a sign of hope for someone out there who feels like they're in the middle of torture right now.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that that is true, because I sought out, well, I did a search on Google for someone in my local area who knew anything about connective tissue, myofascial release, some sort of massage, anything. And the only person I could find was a chiropractor. And before I continue, I want to say, people have asked me, well, I'll just go to my chiropractor. Won't that work? Well, maybe or maybe not, because chiropractic is a certain kind of medical practice. They may or may not have training in fascia, in connective tissue, in these types of things. The doctor that I went to has worked with athletes. And so he does have a certification to work specifically with connective tissue restoration. Some chiropractors, they just work with your bones and joints and alignment and those types of things. So it really depends on what that chiropractor is trained in. Mm-hmm. Not all of them would be able to do what the one I found did. But I went in and he didn't know about lipedema at all. And he even said, I kind of doubt that diagnosis because your arms have weight in them. And because he knew, he'd heard of it. But like a lot of people, he was thinking, if you have weight somewhere else besides in your hips or thighs, well, that's just your need to lose weight. That's just, you should eat better and exercise, And he did tell me, he said, if you have pain that's unexplained, I treat pain. I don't really care what the diagnosis is. If you have pain, I will help you. And it hurt, as you said, hurt. I can't even explain how bad it hurt.
Well, you said it was worse than labor.
It was.
Anybody who's had a child knows how painful that is.
Yes. And I had 4 with no pain relieving drugs at that point. So I know what labor pain, I know what that feels like.
All right. Now I'm really impressed, Kelly. I mean, wow. Do you have an S on your chest, Superwoman? That's amazing.
No. But I cried. It was terrible. I didn't know if I was going to make it through. And the thing that surprised me, I had been trying to be so gentle at home with whatever I did. I was trying to be really careful. And I went to that doctor. He did not care. He was digging in. He was breaking up that tissue, and it hurt a lot. And he would say, are you okay? Do you want me to stop? But he did not say, do you want me to be more gentle?
That's an interesting point, because there are a lot of people who have said that they were afraid of exacerbating their situation. So they thought if we rattle it or use too much pressure, it will make it worse. And one thing I've heard over and over again, we will do anything not to make it worse. And we'll try anything to make it better. And there is this fallacy about pressure, because if you were to, people exercise in pools all the time because it feels so good, and it is really effective exercise, especially for women with lymphedema or lipedema. Well, the pressure in a pool of water is much more significant than a 30 or even a 40. So sorry for that little commercial, but it's a really important point that the pressure can be the very thing to disrupt what's going on in your body and affect change. So that's what you experienced.
I did. I was shocked. I went home from that, and I did feel like I got hit by a train for about the next 3 days. Like, just completely wiped out. I could barely move. It was terrible. I didn't know what I was going to do because I was just so fatigued, just completely exhausted after that treatment. And I took arnica, and I did Epsom salt baths, and I did all those little things that I knew I needed to do. I drank extra green drinks, and I drank extra water, and I did all the things. And I was just, it hit me really hard. But the next week, I went back, and I thought I was crazy because I was expecting that it was going to hurt the same, and it did not. The pain level from my second session was at least half of the first session. And I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. Because I went in I was scared because I knew the pain level. But it was so much better. And so then I thought, you know what? I can do this process now. I think I can do it now because I could deal with half the pain. Even if it stayed right there, I thought I could deal with this. And one of the significant things was, I know women with lipedema have reported their skin feels cold. Even when they're not cold, even if they're out in the heat, their skin can feel cold in those areas where the lipedema is. And after it was about a 5-minute treatment on my arms, that went away. And it hasn't come back. And that's been
so interesting.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Every woman I talk to has a different facet to this condition that I learned something from, and that's really interesting. And so did you continue this treatment, or did you go on to the next thing once you got a certain measure of relief?
I did continue with him for a few months. Now, he is not one of those doctors who wants to keep you there. He wanted to do the acute pain and then teach me what to do so that I don't have to go back. So I was even...
This doctor sounds like,
yeah.
That's the other thing, finding people that will treat you with the dignity and the care and the concern for you to be empowered to go live your life. Should we give him a shout out? Who is this doctor?
This doctor is Dr. Flynn. He's at Flynn Chiropractic in East Texas. And he also works with Dr. Carroll. They're both in the same office at Flynn Chiropractic. They helped me in a month of treatment there, once a week, only once a week. I went from being mostly in bed, and I think in my story that I sent you, I told you that my little girl was 3 then. She could not even lean on my arm to read a book. It hurt so much. So that's where I was, mostly in bed, not able for like a 25-pound child to even rest on my arm. Within 1 month of once a week treatments, we took a trip to the beach, and I was able to do 5 miles a day on the sand, walking in the sand without a day for recovery. Like I did it for about 5 days in a row.
How liberating, how freeing, and how exciting for you.
Because honestly, all I wanted was to be able to live my life, to be with my family, to not have to sit out, to not miss being a mom, to not miss being a wife, and I got to do the vacation. And I went in with hope, but I never imagined that few of sessions could turn into doing all of that. It was just amazing.
I'm so excited for you, and I'm excited for the women and men who are watching who think, "Ooh, maybe I'll try that because perhaps it could bring some relief." Then you had a close encounter with a woman's story about a pepper.
Oh dear, I did. Because as much pain relief as I got, I had always had these weird up and down weight fluctuations. And
weird to the point where you could overnight, you said, grow 2 sizes.
Yes.
That's like
ridiculous. It's like, it doesn't seem like it should be biologically possible.
Mm-hmm.
though it seems like these stories are common from the women I've talked to, it seems like other women have done this too. But yes, I was online and I was just reading a thread. I had joined the lipedema groups like a lot of women have, and there was a woman and she said a comment about how she gained weight from eating peppers. And I thought, well, that makes no sense. I mean, I'm eating a healthy diet. You know, I stir fry my peppers and I I have them, and so I messaged her, and she was so nice and she shared more of her story, and I thought, oh no, what if I had that panic like I've heard from a lot of women since. What if I have to give this up? What if? What if? What if? And you don't want to give anything else up because it really is hard. You've given up so much, you feel like. But I went and I did talk to her, and she really sparked something in my mind. And I was like, I have to Google more, because that's what we do. We Google more. So I Googled more, and I found out that one of the symptoms of a food sensitivity or intolerance can be coughing or your throat feeling like it closes. Because I had pretty much eliminated all those foods that seemed to make me gain 2 sizes overnight, I thought. But I had started having that feeling like my throat was closing in, like I would start coughing while I'm eating dinner. And it had become more and more common. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start paying attention to that, because I'd eliminated almost all of the common allergens already. And sure enough, within a couple of days, I realized that when I ate those peppers that she talked about, I started having that feeling in my throat, like not really itchy, but really like it was tightening, closing. And then I started realizing when I had coconut and almonds, I would cough and cough and cough and not be able to stop.
Wow.
And it could be within seconds of eating. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I had to dig a lot to figure out that those could be symptoms or signs that you're reacting to a food. I had no idea.
And I have to say, with a really strong background in nutrition and healthy eating, you had given up all grains, and you thought you were doing a good thing by switching over to almond flour.
Yes, coconut flour. I was cooking with coconut oil. I had pretty much mastered converting all these recipes to using coconut flour, almond flour, all the good things. I didn't use any of those oils that you're not supposed to use. I had eliminated all the terrible like hair care products and makeup and all these different things, and I had replaced them with hair products that had coconut milk and I mean pretty much everything. And so I decided, okay, I'll try this. And when I gave up, this was not actually like overnight. This was a process. Because when you're dealing with any kind of food reaction, you have to kind of do foods one at a time. If you do a lot of foods at once, you can't tell which one it is.
Right.
So the peppers, though, when I gave up those peppers, within a few days, I had lost 2.5 inches off of each thigh.
Okay, this is blowing my mind more than Cheryl's scallop story, because she had told Cheryl Skolage, who is the founder of the Food Lipedema and Food Sensitivities Facebook page. Right. We both highly recommend. Kelly is an administrator of that page. She told a story about how she had a scallop and gained 5 pounds.
Right.
You gave up peppers and lost inches off your thighs.
I did. 2.5 inches off of each one. And I was just amazed. I couldn't believe it. So then I went through the process again. Then I discovered the almonds and the coconut. And so after the peppers, I was kind of like, well,
what else is
worth it to me. It's worth it to me to give up the almonds and the coconut. So absolutely. I did. And I had hit a wall, and I gave up those two things. And again, I had great results. My pain, um, even after all these therapies I've done, because after the chiropractor, I added a lot of different things, cupping and foam rolling and like gua sha techniques and a lot of different things. There was an underlying just pain.
Mm.
And it wasn't to where it really interfered a lot, but underlying everything, there was just an ache all the time. And I took those foods out, and that went away about 90%. It improved about 90%.
That
And
is incredible, but very
it
credible.
is.
And we know it's not one size fits all because
No,
everybody's body is different. Did you ever take one of those food sensitivity tests?
I recently did,
So this was
just out of
you
curiosity.
own, just trial and error.
I did out of trial and error. Part of because when I encountered the food sensitivities, our family has eaten kosher for a very long time. And so I'd already taken out shellfish. I had already gone gluten free. I wasn't eating grains either because I figured that would help. I had taken out sugar, pretty much all the sugars. And so all the things I'd already eliminated, I thought there aren't that many common allergens left. I'll just do them one by one and see what happens. And so that's what I did. But most recently, when Cheryl had that great discount and they were having this sale, I don't know if they're still having that, but it's worth checking on. Yes, I went ahead and did the sensitivity test. And a couple of things showed up, which I kind of already knew. But, I think some of us, we know deep down in there, we know some of the things we should be giving up that are just hard for us to give up. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how it was for me. So 2 weeks ago, I gave up dairy, which I don't want to do. But I love my cheese. And I don't want to drink black coffee,
And so, you can't have almond milk.
I can't do, that's part of it also, why it's hard for me with the dairy. I can't do almond milk. I can't do coconut milk. Where am I?
Can you do stevia?
I do stevia and I have Swerve. Okay. But as far as I was using some organic, really healthy, heavy cream for my coffee and grass-fed butter to make a keto-ish coffee. And so, but the butter and the cream, I'm going to give them up for 6 weeks and see what happens.
Yeah, because what you have learned is sometimes sacrificing a pleasure is important to get past the pain. But there is something you told me on the phone that I almost fell off my chair. And this is a message to all of us who our emotions go up and down based on what the scale says. The scale doesn't really matter. You lost several sizes without the scale changing at all. Tell us that story.
Okay. Since I had my 4th child and I gained the 50 pounds, the scale has not moved. I gained that 50. I went up to a size 22. I'm only like 5'1". So gaining 50 pounds on a short girl it's ridiculous. So I was then in a size 22, which makes you sad anyway. And, having to buy those clothes, I understand that feeling of being at that place.
Yes. And by the way, to everyone watching, size 22, size whatever, you are worthy, you are beautiful, you are valuable. And part of this journey is realizing you're worth taking care of you and figuring out whatever works for you at whatever size you are. I know the pain of looking in the mirror I was an obese child. I've shared this story many times. I was teased. I wasn't played with because I looked different from all the other kids. And no matter how high or low my weight went in my head, I felt less than. Oh, if we could just find something to dislodge that less than feeling in your mind, because part of that self-love is what helps you keep plowing through to find your answers like Kelly did. So beautiful, Kelly. We can't imagine you being anything but beautiful no matter what size you were. But here you were, 22, size 22, feeling bad about yourself, and yet trying all these different things out, and your body began to get smaller.
It began to get smaller. I was doing pretty intense, all kinds of connective tissue therapies at that point, rotating them. That seemed to be what worked for me. So I was using all those different things, therapies, and I did begin to shrink. I don't even own a scale because they just have always upset me due to all these fluctuations. So I didn't even own a scale, but it just so happened that my son broke his ankle. And so I was taking him for months to physical therapy. And they had a scale. And so as I was losing, periodically I would go get on that scale. And I wasn't losing weight. Not a pound ever. And so I decided one day, it actually came when I was going to order some new jeans, which is always terrible. When you have this weird shaped body, you don't want to go try on 50 pairs of jeans in a dressing room that has terrible mirrors. So I decided I'm going to take advantage of Amazon's wardrobe program, and I can just send them all back if I hate them all. But I noticed the size charts you have to measure. So I decided I don't care what size it is. I am going to measure accurately, and I am going to get one pair of jeans that will fit, that I can be happy to wear. So that's what I did. And when I took that hip measurement, I just sat down and cried, you know, but I wrote it down. Well, I have a Google Doc. I put it in there and I started tracking. And so the jeans did fit when I got the accurate measurement, by the way. And so I found the jeans. That was a plus.
That's a
and
win.
I started tracking measurements. And I found that the measurements were a better reflection of what was going on with my body. This was way back at the start when I first started with the fascia blasting. My first month of treating my connective tissue, 12 inches overall, just in that first month. And since that time, that's been about 3 years ago, I've lost a little over 54 inches overall.
Wow.
And I'm in a size like 12, 14 now. But no pounds lost, not one single pound.
That's actually freeing for people to hear. If they got on the scale this morning and they've been doing everything that they know they should be doing and the scale didn't move, get out that measuring tape, because you very well may be reducing inches, centimeters, and getting into a more healthy physique, because that's what it's all about, is health.
It is.
And then it helped your mental health, didn't it?
Yes, it does. It's very hard. It's very hard when I think a lot of women with lipedema, even if they shrink, they still don't have a realistic view of how they actually look. I mean, even you said it's in your mind. Once you've hit that place where you don't like your body, you feel like it's rebelling. Every time you look in the mirror, you don't feel like you're looking at yourself. It's hard to get past that. And so in my mind, I know that I'm buying smaller sizes. I can look at all these numbers that I've tracked, and I know that they're shrinking. And so even if I don't feel like it, I make myself go back and I look. It's like, okay, I really am. I'm doing okay. And it also has helped me with the food reactions, because I do get inflammation from the foods, and I do and lose inflammation when I've taken things out. So I know some people can track to the quarter pound, like how much weight they gain or lose with food reactions. Weight is reliable for some people, but for some people, it means not a thing. It really doesn't.
So
So
what I love about your story is that you've taken this challenging condition. You've lost 10 sizes. Congratulations, Kelly.
thank
And
you.
now you are helping other women. Let's talk
Yes.
about this current chapter in your life. We are so happy to support you as you get it off the ground. Your website is still under construction as we speak, but this is your platform. We want people to know about what you do to help other women.
Well, I am super excited because I, long ago, about 15 years ago, I got a certification as a wellness coach. This was after my graduate school. I did a lot of education, but I just wanted to be healthier. And I had an opportunity to go through a training to get certified as a wellness coach. And then I raised my 3 oldest kids. And then this whole thing hit me. And it's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. And it's very hard to find help. And it's very hard to find anyone who understands, who can sort of guide you through. And then Cheryl asked me to be an admin for her group, the Lipedema and Food Sensitivities group. And so I have the privilege of doing all the approvals for that group for people who want to join. And I talk to so many women. They message me because I'm the first contact with the group. And it breaks my heart every day. There are women from all over the world, and their stories are the same. They have no one. They don't know what to eat. They don't know what to do. They're just really sort of in despair. You know, they don't have anywhere to turn. They don't know whether to believe this group or that group online, because people have very strong opinions sometimes about what you should eat and how you should handle your health. And so it's really a struggle. And so one day it just came to me, maybe I should sort of renew that wellness coach certification. And I realized, going back through my paperwork, I realized that certification, once I got it, I have it forever. But I didn't feel equipped anymore, because I've helped people along the way, but not in any sort of professional sense. So I decided to go back through the whole program again. And so I did that. I don't know why I started it in June, when it was Lipedema Awareness Month, and there were about 500 other webinars and talks that I wanted to listen to at the same time, but that's what I did. And so since June, I think I've done about 400 hours of studying. And I got my certification. I went and redid it. I got it again, and I feel much more equipped now. I'm going to be trying to network with doctors in my area. There is no one in this area who can diagnose or who can even give direction, who really knows anything. So I'm hoping to network. I'm also, I already have clients that I'm seeing via Zoom. So it's been so rewarding, because I've been in that place where I just wish somebody would say, you know what? You're not crazy. There is hope. There is direction. You can find an answer. There's not a magic wand, but there's hope, and you can figure it out. You don't have to just lay in bed and be in pain and hate your body. Even if it's a baby step a day, it's still a baby step, and you can move forward.
There's such power in this community of knowing you're not alone, and you don't have to forge a path alone, because there are so many brave women who have gone before you. So people want to know, how do they get in touch with you, Kelly, if they want to find out about some coaching and need some help along the way?
Right now, as you said, my website is not ready, but I have an email that is info@wildheart.health.
Wildheart.com.
Health.
Health.
Yes.
Tell me about Wild Heart. Why that name?
Okay. Wild Heart was born long ago. That it's hard for me to explain a little. I've had an up and down road in life in general, as a lot of us have, but I married my high school sweetheart 20 years after we graduated from high school, almost 25 years. And when I went back to his parents' house after all this time, his dad pulled out a picture that he had taken of us when we were 17. And I looked at that picture and I realized that what is in that picture, that's what's been missing. There's something that was lost. And it was about the relationship, but it was also about me. Because in that picture, I felt free. I wanted to embrace life. I wanted to, I felt like I could take on the world. And somewhere along the way, I didn't feel like that anymore. And I think my mission with helping other people is, there's that part of you that wants to just live with abandon, that wants to embrace life. And your mind, your soul, your spirit, your body, all of it, you hold on to that little wild spirit. Hold on to that little part that doesn't want to give up, that tenacious part, because it's in there somewhere. It really is. Not everybody has a great childhood to look back on and say, oh, I wish I could go back to that. But everybody has that little spark. It's in, even if you can't see it or feel it, you have that little spark. So that's what I want to do for women who have this condition. Help them hold on to that little wild part inside of them, grab onto it, and just be free.
I'm so glad I asked the question, where did Wild Heart come from? And for those of you watching, you can get that spark back. Kelly is here to tell you, I'm here to tell you, you can get that spark back. Kelly, this has been a goosebump-inducing, wonderful time with you, and I look forward to continuing our relationship. Any last words before we end?
I think what I would have wanted to say is what I said. Just don't give up, and don't think you have to live inside the little box. Think outside the box. Think lipedema, it sort of breaks all the rules. It really does. It breaks all the rules for what you're supposed to eat, how you're supposed to exercise, how you're supposed to gain weight or lose weight. It just blows them out of the water. And so don't think that keeping yourself in that little box is going to fix everything. It may take a little something extra. It may take something unusual that you haven't tried before. But giving up that's not the way. No. Hang in there. Find one thing to hang on to. Because if you find that one thing, you will find something else. You have to do that baby step. So find one thing, one truth, one hope, one cute little quote that just makes you know that it's going to be okay. And don't get overwhelmed. Or if you're overwhelmed, know that that's okay, but then take the step anyway.
Well said. You are inspiring. I've loved getting to know you over these last few months, and I look forward to working with you more in the future. Kelly, you are an inspiration. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
And thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Lipedema channel. I call it TLC because we offer some tender love and care, those with lipedema, and we look forward to serving you. If you know someone that would make for a wonderful interview, please shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you and we'll schedule something. In the meantime, have a beautiful day, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Bye. Bye, Kelly.
Bye.